Most photographers never make it past the very first stage of building a business. And the few who do get trapped in what I call the quicksand zone, where you're working harder than ever, but your dreams feel like they're slipping away. The good news, only a tiny percentage of photographers ever make the decision to escape it. That means when you get there, the competition is tiny, the barrier to entry is higher than most are willing to climb. And then when you choose to step out of the quicksand zone, you instantly put yourself in rare company. This is good news for you, my friend. Most photographers stay stuck telling themselves, I need better skills. I need fancier gear. I need more followers to make more money. But that's not what separates broke photographers from six-figure ones. The real difference is knowing exactly which stage you're in and what to focus on to move up. Today, I'm going to show you the exact stages of what I call the photographer freedom staircase. It's the portrait path photographers need to move up on to build a six-figure plus photography business, and why so many get stuck at one specific stage for years. By the end, you'll know exactly which stage you're in and why you might be feeling stuck. By the way, if you're new here, I'm Sarah Petty. I've helped more than 33,000 photographers through the photographer freedom staircase to build profitable businesses. Once you see it, everything will change for you. Let's start at stage one. I call this stage the camera carrier. This is the stage where really all photographers start. The ones who carry their cameras everywhere. Remember this phase? You love taking pictures. You're photographing everything. Your friends, sunsets, your kids, your dog, the new flower that bloomed outside. You take it to parties, you take it everywhere. And you start to get noticed. People are saying, oh my gosh, you're so talented. Feels good. Here's the thing about the camera carrier stage. It isn't about charging anybody for anything. It's about loving your hobby, loving your camera. In fact, you're likely giving images away to everybody, right? You're just obsessed with taking photos. And I loved it too. Here's the thing. Most photographers never move past this stage. They stay a hobbyist forever. And heck, there's nothing at all wrong with that. Seriously, I believe everyone should have camera skills to enjoy for their entire lives. And listen, while it's great for other people, I'm glad that you and I have made the decision to move out of just carrying our camera, and we went to the next phase because only a small percentage of people do. Which brings us to stage two, where photographers make their very first leap into charging. Maybe you remember when this happened to you. I think most people sort of stumble onto stage two by accident. Likely you were carrying your camera somewhere, creating images, sharing them regularly, and someone probably noticed your work. They saw enough talent in you, or likely just they knew you had something that they didn't have, and they offered you money for something. Maybe it was to photograph their house that they're selling, or their new puppy, or some action shots at the football game when you're standing there anyway with your camera. The subject that you're photographing and the amount that they're paying you are not what's important here. What matters is that somebody was willing to pay you something for what you would absolutely happily do for free. And that moment sparked something inside of you. I remember for me, this first person's name was Betsy. She saw some pictures that I'd taken of my nieces and nephews and asked me to photograph her kids. I said yes, like it wasn't a big deal, but then I started to panic. I felt like such a fraud. Who am I to take money for this when I don't have a degree? I don't have any formal training. And then I thought, well, heck, we're meeting at the park, and surely I can do a good enough job for $50. And I can't even explain to you how excited I was when the images turned out fine and someone was actually paying me to do what I loved. That $50 was more than just cash. It was proof that something that had been just a dream could actually be possible. I know it's hard at this stage to know what to charge. And you're thinking, I'm not really that good yet. What should I do? But most of the time in this phase, people are just offering you a little money to photograph something, right? You're probably feeling insecure like I was. You're falling into the comparison traps that are everywhere. And if you're anything like I was, horrified to use the word professional. But here's the danger at this stage, because when you're at this stage, you're really just dabbling. You're probably offering digital files for whatever people will pay you. Maybe you're just making sure you cover hard costs, or you throw out an hourly rate that sounds good at the time, but in none of that are you realizing all that back end work takes an insane amount of time. But really, for me, it's a little bit okay because you're kind of getting paid to learn, right? You want to get through this phase as fast as you can, because typically in this phase, you're just taking what comes at you, making a little, buying a little equipment, and it's kind of fun, which is why I call this the accidental pro. You're not photographing for free anymore, but you're not really making a lot of profit. It's kind of hobby income is what the government calls it. So you can write off a little bit of equipment, but you're not really making a profit. And listen, here's the danger of staying too long in this phase. This phase can get messy really fast, which is why I'm telling you, get out of this phase as soon as you can. I like doing this. I like the feeling of taking money, because you start to realize when you're saying yes to everything, you're photographing buildings and people and birthday parties and business events, often with no rhyme or reason. And you realize, okay, I don't really have the equipment to do that, or you don't have the skills to something you committed to, and it can be a very scary and dangerous phase. Okay, so while you're an accidental pro and you're not photographing for free, you're definitely still winging it. You're putting money back into your business for a little bit of gear, which is fine, but it isn't really an intentional business. How do you know you're ready to go to the next stage? Well, if you're doing some work and realizing, whoa, that's a lot of work. Wouldn't it be amazing to actually make a steady stream of income doing this, or maybe even replace the full-time job you had? That's when you're ready. So if you're in this stage and you're here watching this video, you're already beyond ready. Because now I want to talk about stage 3, which is likely where you are. I call stage 3 the paid experimenter. Okay, stage 3 is such an exciting phase. It is a little bit dangerous, however. This is where most of you are, and this is where a lot of students come to me to learn at the Photography Business Institute. This is also where you might likely be stuck in quicksand, which I think is where dreams go to die. Here's what happens. You are loving it. You're getting booked, you're having clients, you're working all of these digital files, but you've also come to the realization that it's a lot more work than you thought, and you aren't seeing the financial returns that you are craving. You've invested in some equipment, that's amazing. You've learned the workflow of your digital files, how to download them, edit, retouch. You're using Photoshop and Lightroom likely, and you've discovered how many hours editing really takes. You've sold yourself the lie that as you get better at photography, your business will do better. I'm hoping that by now you've narrowed in and realized that portraits are the biggest money-making opportunity with your camera. I'm basing that on my own experience and the fact that my students at the Photography Business Institute have made over $32 million since the pandemic hit. I know that portraits are by far the best way to leverage your time and money and put your family first. If you're charging $200 for digital files, giving it all away, do the math. To make 6 figures, you have to do 500 sessions at $200. Now that you're in the paid experimenter phase, you've started to focus on what you love, people and their pets. Hopefully by now you've started saying no to things that you're not good at, that you don't like, and you don't have the skills to do, complex jobs. And if you haven't, write that down. This is the phase where the light bulb is really going on. Like, maybe I should get a little more proactive. Maybe I should make this a real business. So you go out and you probably have business cards, you probably have a website, or you've set up your social media accounts, and you're going out into the world as now a professional photographer. But here's where you unknowingly started your journey into the sludge of quicksand. Instead of following a proven system, you start doing what you think you should be doing. And tell me in the comments if this resonates with you. You spend a lot of time copying what others are doing without even knowing if they know what they're doing or if they're making money. You try this, you try that. Because it's easy for anyone to pick up a camera and call themselves a photographer, stage 3 feels very crowded, and that of course, is fueling your insecurity. Everyone is posting nonstop about the fact that they're now booking on social media. Everyone's trying to undercut the gal down the street and racing full speed to the price race to the bottom. Here's what nobody is telling you. Very few people ever figure out how to get out of this quicksand. You're not going under, you're just staying stuck and frustrated. Not to mention doing a lot of self-shaming. Here's the good news about this stage. You've likely started to invest some of your money on small things to try to get better because you realize you're not getting there alone. So you've probably been buying, some actions or a course on how to get some Instagram followers or a tool to put online galleries up. You don't need that. But without a bigger plan, a strategic plan, it's like you're grabbing puzzle pieces from different puzzles and then you're laying them all out and you're trying to fit them together. And instead of saying, oh my gosh, I have the wrong puzzle pieces, you beat yourself up. I'm not good enough. I haven't had enough experience. I'm too young. I'm too old. My city's this or that. You watch the competitors. So you're like, oh, it's because I need to do mini sessions or I need to try Facebook ads. And when the next thing doesn't work, the doubt piles on. Imposter syndrome is growing. And you're also looking at external reasons you're not succeeding. Age, city, competition, lack of support, don't have time. You go through feeling phases of excited and motivated to hopeless and desperate. Some people get stuck in the roller coaster of this phase for decades. That's why stage 3 is so painful. You're exhausted, you're overwhelmed, you're working harder than you've ever worked for less money than you imagined, but you're justifying it because you have freedom and flexibility and you get to call yourself a professional. But the harder you fight, the deeper you sink. Friends and family who in phase 1 and 2 were encouraging you are now saying, is this really what you should be doing? There's so much competition, blah, blah, blah. Here's the catch-22 about this phase. If you're actually successful with your undercharging, the more clients you get, the more trapped you feel because you're still overshooting, underpricing, and burning out. So you have less time. Listen, when you're guessing, trying this, trying that, copying others, even though they're likely not even profitable, that's what keeps you stuck in quicksand at stage 3. Most people who get to stage 3 never leave it. That's why the few who get out escape the quicksand zone, because the real barrier isn't owning a camera or your camera skills. It's learning how to run a business the right way. And I get it. So many stay stuck because of fear. You're dealing with the devil you know, working all the time for pennies, versus the devil you don't know, taking a risk and making the hard decision to invest in a proven system. What if I commit to this new system and I lose all my clients? What if I fail and people talk bad about me? Who am I to charge that much? And sure, a little money in hand feels better than nothing, but staying stuck in stage 3 is exhausting. And I don't think it's good for your mental health. The reality that you can't see because you're working so hard and staying stuck is that life is so much easier out of quicksand. The hardest part is simply making the decision to get help getting pulled out, because I think it's really hard to get out of quicksand on your own. Stage 4, we call the business breakthrough. Might happen in your 3rd month of business if you're impatient like me and you want to get there with less suffering, or it could be after 20 years of being stuck in quicksand. This is the stage where you finally make the decision to climb out. Instead of chasing shiny objects and beating yourself up when it doesn't go well, you finally commit to a proven system, follow it step by step, and you feel the result of the system. That's why we call it a breakthrough. You have to experience the breakthrough you feel when you get a multi-$1,000 order. That's how you keep going. I'll never forget when I shifted into this stage myself. Instead of scrambling with 24 sessions at $75, I booked one right fit client named Julie who placed an $1,800 order. That single order replaced 24 sessions that I had been doing for $75. Imagine trying to bake a cake on your own and you've never really baked. Okay, so you're grabbing ingredients. You're like, oh, I think people put flour and sugar and some chocolate something, and you mix it up and you're throwing it in the oven and it tastes kind of okay. But then someone hands you a box cake with clear instructions. Suddenly you realize you were making baking so much harder than it needed to be. You had most of the right ingredients, or maybe all of them, but the order you were using them, the amounts you were using them, and the key steps made all the difference. So when you finally have your breakthrough in your business, by using a proven system, your business finally stops feeling random. You're no longer overshooting or giving everything away for pennies. You're working with systems that create an assumption of sale, meaning that every client that comes in is expecting to invest in wall art. And because you learn to identify right fit clients from the very first phone call, you're only working with people who love you. Listen, just by choosing to follow a proven system, you're putting yourself in such rare company. That's why the competition doesn't matter anymore when you get to stage 4. You might be asking, what's after stage 4, Sarah? Because stage 4 isn't the finish line. In stage 4, you've proven that it works, that getting a better system is actually amazing. But obviously, it takes a minute to master it. And you've got to set yourself up to keep a system in your life and to keep getting better. And so the next phase is about mastering the system so you can have predictably high income in a predictably low amount of time. Stage 5, we call the peak performer. This is a phase about strategy, about planning, and about multiplying your results. Now, here's the difference between stage 4 and stage 5, because most photographers think, oh, once I have a system, I've arrived. But that's not quite true. Stage 4 is proving the model. Stage 5 is scaling it. At this stage, yes, you know how to work with a client when you get one, but you're planning your year. You're running full out campaigns. You're partnering with other businesses. You're creating habits that keep you accountable. Every activity in your business is planned before it happens. This is where life finally starts to feel easier because you know what's coming before it even happens. You're picking up right fit clients and referrals with ease, and your averages are constantly rising. I often describe sales in stage 4 kind of like a heartbeat. You get that first big order, you know what it is, but then you forget something and you have a low order, right? It's like an EKG, up, down, up, down. There's a lot of inconsistency when you learn a new system. But at stage 5, if you put yourself in a community with others who are ahead of you, they've learned the lessons that you can learn. They're working the same system with coaching, with feedback and support. Those low orders start to rise and your highs get higher. Thus, your average sale is predictable, consistent, and high. In this phase, you're starting to feel your time just open up. You're loving your life. You're feeling more confident with yourself than you ever have. And you notice that you're showing up in all areas of your life as your best self. So once you're performing at this level, you'll be ready to grow into the ultimate stage where you multiply your results into a better financial situation. More time freedom, more long-term savings, and heck, let's even talk about generational wealth. Stage 6 is what I call the freedom creator. This is a stage where you've hit 6 figures or multiples. You realize you want to make money, whether it's the same money in less time or more money, but you're creating true freedom and choices for yourself and for your family. You start to delegate. You're outsourcing the things that aren't the best use of your time. You're learning tax saving strategies and business investment strategies. You're living out of debt and you step fully into leadership. If you have kiddos, you're able to hire them to work for you and teach them about Roth IRAs and saving for their own future without filing a tax return for them. It's pretty cool. At this stage, you still could care less about the competition. In fact, half of them have gone out of business. But you have the freedom to choose who you want to work with as a client. You've built a business that clients love, and you finally have both time and money freedom. So let me just recap the 6 stages of the photographer freedom staircase. First, you're the camera carrier, just taking pictures everywhere you go for fun. Second, someone offers you money and you stumble into the accidental photographer. You're getting paid, but it's still kind of hobby income. Step 3 is where it gets real. That's where you become a paid experimenter. You're trying this and trying that. You're doing a lot of copying others, which keeps you stuck in the quicksand zone. This is the place I want you to get out of. Get to step 4, which is business breakthrough. That's where you realize, oh my gosh, there's a better way. You followed a proven system and you have a breakthrough so that you can see, oh my gosh, this is the model I want. Stage 5 is the peak performer. This is where you're learning strategic planning and achieving consistent, predictable results. And then the freedom creator. This is where you're creating more time and freedom while scaling your business. Remember, most photographers get stuck in quicksand in stage 3, which is likely where you are. And I really want to talk to you about this because when you escape stage 3, it puts you in rare company, and that's when business gets fun. So much less competition, so much more profit, and you're working with clients who love you, gush over you, and refer you. So fun. Listen, if you want help getting out of quicksand, because I've been there and I know how hard it is to get out alone, that's what we do here at the Photography Business Institute. And listen, you are closer than you think. Click the link in the description so you can talk to someone from my team to see what we have going on right now that might be able to help you. And I'll see you soon.